excited to have our special guest, Mario Camacho from Mexico City, Mexico. Mexico, I should say, right? Mexico City. And Mario is an expert in stem cell technology. He's actually a scientist and one of those guys that, we haven't even started, and I already feel smarter just sitting next to you. But give us your credentials, if you would.
Okay, I'm a biomedical researcher. I'm a graduate from the National University of Mexico. And I do a PhD in biomedical science, and I work with stem cells. My field of work is related essentially with the regeneration of different tissues, especially in retina.
So the regeneration of the eye tissues.
The eye tissues, for example. Yeah. My protocols are in a lot of tissues, but I specialize in eye tissues. And the condition that we have more experience is in macular degeneration. Okay. And we treat that with stem cells from the own person. That's the important thing.
From yourself?
From yourself, yes.
Okay.
Autologous stem cells.
Now, I understand that you had some international acclaim with this macular degeneration, with fixing some of those things. And tell us about that.
Okay, well, I began to work with the macular degeneration in 2008. And we have we implement a protocol in that time. And we have some American citizens going to that protocol. And these American citizens, I remember Warren Warford, participated in the protocol, and they have a very amazing results. And based in that results, some media come to visit us in our lab in the city of Querétaro, north to Mexico City. And for example, from America goes in that time Univision, and they make a full documentary about the case. They went to Warren's Warford house. He's a resident of Arizona, and they made all the documentary with him and with me in the lab, and it was very interesting because a lot of people knew about that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. And after that, we have a lot of work in Mexico doing that. We work with people with 7 Mexican institutions. Well, now I'm here in Vegas, in the Sin City, trying to search new possibilities to implement the new therapies with the stem cells.
Yes.
And I remember I work with stem cells from the same person, autologous stem cells.
Well, that's it's such a fascinating field. I want to just cover the controversial part of it right up front and get that out of the way, because it was a few years ago, not that many years ago, where there was some scare tactics that they talked about getting stem cells from fetuses and unborn babies, and it there's some moral issues involved with that. Is that true? Is there any part to that? Tell us about that.
Okay, stem cells, we can obtain stem cells from different sources. A stem cell is the cell that have the capability to divide, and the progeny has the same characteristics of the original cell.
So there's some cells that have those characteristics and some that don't.
Yes, in your body, almost all your cells are so differentiated that they can't divide anymore. The only cells that can replenish the cells that die yearly in your body are the stem cells, your own stem cells. Or almost all tissues has its own stem cell pool. And that stem cell pool normally regenerates the cells that normally dies in that tissue that day. In the bone marrow, we have a vaster pool of stem cells that can go through the peripheral blood to any tissue to replenish these pools of stem cells.
I see.
That's a normal way we do. There's a thing that we call asymmetric division. That means that a cell can divide in 2 different kind of cells. One of that cells remains a stem cell, and the other becomes a cell that is compromised to take the place of the cells that are dying. For example, in your retina, you have the different kind of cells, the neurons or different kinds of cells from the epithelial retinum, and then the cells, the stem cells, divide. One of cell remains stem cells to maintain the pool, and the other cell becomes one of these cells that is needed, depending on the needs of the tissue.
I see.
So that's the normal way. When we, several years ago, when this controversy about the fetal stem cells, the embryonic stem cells, rise, was because in that moment, the most easy way to obtain stem cells without a compromise with pluripotent stem cells or even multipotent stem cells, that means that can become in any kind of cell of the body. Pluripotent means that can become in some kind of cells of the body, because the cells in the development of the human being become specialized, and gradually they lose the ability to become any kind of cell. They are becoming, okay, now I will be cell of the mesoderm, I will be the ectoderm, and then I decide to be cell from the bone or from the different kind of tissues. And when we are grown-ups, adults, our cells are almost all of that cells are compromised with only one kind or several kinds of cells. We don't have that potentiality to become with any kind of cell. So in that moment, they say, okay, the easiest way to obtain stem cells is from an embryo. And in that moment, the argument of the people in favor of using embryonic stem cells was that when in the normal procedures of in vitro fertilization, we can obtain a lot of different embryos that normally they go to the trash.
Right.
So they say, okay, we can take this and we have a source with stem cells to do research. But there are another kind of stem cells. In fact, in that time, I decided that I have the moral question inside me, and I believe in God, and I believe in human dignity, and I believe that a being that is already integral, even if it's only little cells, but it's a new being with its own genetic material, with its own identity, is a living being.
Wow.
That is I don't know. I think that no. So I decided.
It's very interesting to listen to a scientist say this, because we sort of get the view that all scientists don't believe that.
Oh no! There's a lot of controversy. In fact, I know a lot of scientists that are very, very religious and very moral. Yeah. I believe that we have to stop when there are some moral considerations that can be very bad, like this, like taking embryos from a newborn, because you can profit with some human being, even in that stage. Yeah. Because if you begin to do that in the future, you can begin to do a lot of things.
That's right.
Yeah, and I don't know if I will do that. So in that time, they decided to work with stem cells from the adult persons, somatic stem cells, adult stem cells. We can obtain adult stem cells from several sources. In fact, when a newborn, a baby, borns, we obtain cells. We can obtain cells from the placenta or from the umbilical cord blood. And that cells are stem cells. A part of that cells are stem cells.
Are they as effective, less effective, more effective, or does it matter?
Oh, let's wait a little bit about that field, because first I want the public to know about the kind of stem cells that are actually being researched.
Right.
So you can obtain that kind of stem cells, and you can do. In fact, a lot of people do therapies with that kind of stem cells. The other source of stem cells are adult stem cells. Bone marrow, for example, is a very good source of stem cells.
That comes from any bone.
Any bone, sternum, iliac crest, any bone.
It usually comes from the sternum, though, right? Is it easier
to
get?
It's easier to get, and after some 35 years, it's a very good source.
Okay.
Before that, iliac crest is because it's the biggest bone in the body. Is one of the best sources of bone marrow. So you can take the bone marrow from the bones and then isolate the stem cells from there and do research. And then now we have another option. Some years ago, the Nobel Prize went to two groups that developed one technology that is known the EPCs, induced pluripotent stem cells. That means that you can take cells from, for example, the skin, fibroblast from the skin, and you can transform these cells with the input of genes, human genes, so that can overexpress that human genes, and then the cell becomes similar to the embryonic stem cells.
Really?
They regain the ability to be pluripotent. In that moment, when these articles come out, there were a lot of controversy about if these cells can become a risk in any therapy, because as a no mature stem cell, they can become any kind of artifact or even a teratome inside the body after application. But now, with the advancement of the technique, it becomes a very robust technique to obtain stem cells that are pluripotent and are very easy to engraft in the body without giving you the risk of a cancer or a teratoma. Actually, I think the major source of stem cell for therapies in the near future will be that kind of cells that you can take from your own body, then transform in the lab, inducing the pluripotency of them, and then use that cells to reconstruct or regenerate the tissue or that we're interested in regenerating.
Well, let me ask you a question. I heard recently, this is really interesting, but President Carter, who I think right now he's 91, early 90s, and he had, as I understand it, stage 4 cancer.
Okay.
He had cancer that was so advanced it had gone up into his brain. And now, of course, as an ex-president, he probably has access to all kinds of miracle things that we wouldn't normally know about. But he had stem cell therapy, and as I understand it, he's cancer-free right now.
Yeah.
It all went away. Now, he had stage 4.
Yeah, no, in fact, there's a field in stem cell research related with cancer research that works like, there are some, but one field that is very promising is the immunomodulation. You use stem cells to regulate the response of your immune system to the cancer cells. You can, in fact, you can induce your immune system to recognize and destroy the cancer stem cells. That's one of the ways to do that to treat cancer with stem cells. And the stem cells, the thing that they do is that they become and induce this change of. I'm trying to find the words so you can understand. Not technical words.
I can't imagine. You have such great English coming from Mexico.
Yeah, I'm
with
trying.
All these technical words, you're doing extremely well.
Yeah, I'm trying. Sorry if I sometimes say my pronunciation is not very good, but okay. Yeah. So stem cells right now are in the verge of a huge new age. Where a lot of therapies using that kind of cells can be accessible to the public. For cancer, for actually you can find here in the States therapies for articulation, for joints.
That's very popular.
Yeah, it's very popular because joints only have one kind of cell, chondrocytes. So that's why it, in theory,
it works easier.
It works easier. It's not so easy because the chondrocytes are in. When you talk about a cell or kind of cell, you can find all the cells of that kind are similar. No, that's not so. There are subpopulations of every kind of cells that you can define with the characteristic of that cells. You decide how to define that, and you define that in regard from your objectives. Okay? So when you think in, for example, chondrocytes, you have to think that the mature chondrocytes are the ones that are in the inner part, in the central part of the joint. In the extremes of the joint, there you can find the immature stem cells that are very different. They are smaller and different, even in some phenotype, also in the form. With time, the cells move in the tissue until it attains the central position and it finishes its maturation in that part. It's only one kind of cells, chondrocyte, and in fact you have a lot of different kind of subpopulations of this cell at the same time. So the tricky thing is how to work with these subpopulations, making that they work together, because that's the way the cells really works in a therapy, working together to reconstruct or regenerate the organ. So
let me ask you a question, because for all everyone that's listening right now, including me, we either have something or we are going to at some point in our life have a medical problem. We're going to have an issue, right? And so, as I understand it, and help me with this and tell me if this is correct or not, but any time that a baby is born, the parents should take stem cells from the umbilical cord or the placenta and store those, right?
It will be interesting. It will be good. But with the new technologies, we can develop therapeutic application without that cells.
Oh, so it's not necessary?
It's not necessary, but it's preferable.
Oh, okay.
Because the cells grow old. You have some molecular markers that give us reason of the age of number of division of a cell in our body. So we are programmed to die.
Right.
It's in our program. We can not live eternally, because that can be good for our species.
I'm programmed for 120, so I just want you
that
to know
will be great. And you are very close to the estimate of Living Hub with the new therapies and new technologies that actually are now developing, and some of them now even you can find in the market. So you are very close to that. Yeah. So in fact, maybe we can, the speculation in one of the from the scientific community in that regard is that we can live about 125 years.
Really?
Yeah, in good condition.
Wow. So
with the technology, with the knowledge we have right now.
Wow.
But obviously they are not so easy.
But the knowledge is increasing.
It's increasing, and the therapies are developing. So right now it's a lot of therapies, small therapies that are using, but we have the knowledge to do a lot of things. In fact, Dr. Alter, I can't remember the name, is an American doctor. He developed heart, tissue hearts that work a long time ago here in the States.
The artificial heart.
Yeah, with stem cells. Yeah,
right.
We can. The tissue engineering is a field that is growing faster than any other fields in biology, in medical biology, I think.
So, what should we be doing right now? What should a person like me, a layman that doesn't know anything,
the things here, when we take a stem cell from young people, that cell knows that has only X number of divisions.
Okay.
After a certain number of divisions, the cells kills themselves.
They die out. How many is that about?
Oh, it varies, depend the kind of tissue. For example, 45. I don't know. It's very very variable. But
5 or 10 times maybe.
No, more. 45.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for example. So the thing is that we have when the cells divide. The chromosomes are formed, and the end of the chromosomes you have the telomeres.
Okay.
It's a structure of DNA structure that when the body grows up, is age, becomes smaller, until it's so small that it's a signal that the cell is not viable anymore.
Okay.
So the cell becomes apoptotic. That means it becomes suicide. It takes suicide and dies.
Goes away.
Yeah. So it's very.
So it's like dead skin and things like that would.
Yeah. For example, it's natural. There are cells that are programmed to die faster, like the cells of the skin. In 3 months, you change all your blood cells. For example, your red cells from the blood. That kind of thing. No,
I heard that every 7 years, every cell has replaced itself. Is that true?
Maybe the thing is that maybe some exception can find in the central nervous system, because there are some neurons that are so important to maintain some function, especially the higher brain functions, that the body can do that. That's why before the people, the community, the scientific community, think that neurons never died. Yes, they die and they change it, but it's the longest life cells in our body. And yet we change continually. Our bodies are changing and life change. Life is not dynamic. When the dynamic is stopped, the problems become to appear. So right now, if you going back to your original question. It's preferable to have the cells of the person from a younger age.
Okay.
So the cells knew that they are younger. If not, you have.
It would have to have been frozen all this time, right?
Yeah, you can froze that.
Minus 80 degrees, or
in liquid nitrogen, for example, almost minus 198 Celsius degrees. That's almost close to absolute zero. And they can stay viable, frozen a long periods of time.
Okay.
So that's an option. In fact, for example, a person in the 35 years old, for example, in the range from 35, 45 years old, that the cells are still in very good shape generally. You can take the cells, and it can be a very good source for posterior therapies. But because they don't have this aging. In fact, there's other developments that in culture try to reverse that aging of the cells, increasing the length of the telomeres in the chromosome. So the cells knew that they are younger, no?
Right.
But this is still in development, that kind of things. No? So stem cells, the amazing thing about the cells of our bodies is that we discovered that we are more plastic than we believed before, and especially human beings.
Yeah.
The human beings, we are so plastic, and our cells are so plastic. It's amazing. Almost all mammals have that, but the humanity is amazing. You can see all the different diversity of kinds of human beings, and we can have descendants. We are the same species. We can have descendants, viable descendants, even if a pygmy and a Mongol, these big Mongols, offsprings. These offspring can be fertile. So we are the same species. The same like dogs and the cats, but not all the species in the world have this behavior.
Right.
We are very plastic, and in fact, one of the major concerns of the organism is to control that plasticity, so it don't become out of the normal function of the body.
So the cells from a younger age, the younger the better, is best.
It would be better.
And if you don't have that, then you could take it at any age.
Yeah, at any age.
Okay, so you can take cells from me right now.
Yeah, I can take cells from you right now.
And take them back to the lab, isolate them.
Yeah, isolate. In fact, we can prepare the cells. We can transform the cells, introducing some genes that can be overexpressed, and that overexpression will give you the reverse of this cell to a pluripotent state, and you can use that cell then in a culture to induce that cell in a culture to become the kind of cell you want.
I see. Now, how about cells from another person?
Okay, in that regard, you have to do some studies. Sometimes the cells of the same person can be used in a therapy. So you need to obtain cells from a donor. But the donor need to be compatible. You need to do a study of the histocompatibility complex to determine if that cell can be engraftment in the organism you want that cell to be.
Okay.
That's very important because if you don't have the compatibility, you can develop a very serious disease, the host disease, and the people die over that because it's like you put something so strange to the body that don't become part. That become like an invasion, and the body tries like invasion, and it's a very bad disease, no?
I have a friend that has a lab that they take stem cells from the umbilical cord of babies, and they throw them away, right? That's the part you cut, and it just goes in the trash. But they take the stem cells from that and then use that for other people. And that works. That's pretty effective.
Okay, there's very interesting question. Okay, when you take a cell from an adult, total mature adult, is to find a compatible donor. You have to do a lot of studies, and it's not so easy.
You have to have the same blood type. You have to have.
You have the same blood, the same major histocompatibility markers in the cell.
Okay.
Is not so easy, and there's always the risk of rejection.
Yes.
Even with a lot of compatibility.
Siblings, probably. Even, yeah.
But there's some interesting phenomenon that is happening when a newborn comes. A newborn is inside the mother, and the mature system is not fully mature in that moment.
Right.
In fact, it's part of the nature. If the immune system of the baby is really, really, really mature, it can become a problem because it's inside another being.
Right.
So the immune system matures after the birth. That's very important. That's one of the reasons that is very important that mothers feed with milk, maternal milk, the babies, because they are giving the baby the antibodies or some complements from the immune system that the baby don't have in that moment. So the maturity of the maturation of the immune system and the recognition of the self in that moment is very important. When you take the cells from the newborn, the cells don't have that process in that moment. Or, for example, the mesenchymal stem cells that you obtain from the placenta or the umbilical cord. The blood cells, the hematological cells, can be more tricky. They are the cells that develop the immune system. So you have to treat it to do the histocompatibility check like adult cells. But the interesting thing is that cells from the placenta that is in contact with the mother, don't have these histocompatibility markers. So it's like cells with no affiliation to anybody.
Right.
So they can engraft easier than other kind of cells to some tissues. And some in research we can find that some therapies can be done with that kind of cells. The cells engraft and you have a reconstruction of the tissue, but not for all. That's important. Not for all the different conditions that cells will work the same. No?
So I have a question for you. As a scientist and in this field, this really sexy kind of wonderful field that has so many possibilities, what do you imagine is going to happen in let's say 15, 20 years?
Okay, 15, 20 years, I'm sure that we will have a very robust industry in tissue engineering. I'm sure that we have set up this personal medicine, so you can design protocols for every person. And the use of stem cells in that moment will be two. One, in the case that the tissue can regenerate, we can use stem cells to regenerate that tissue.
Okay.
any kind of tissue of the body.
Like the liver, anywhere.
Like the liver. In fact, you go to the and search in the research that actually we have from different kind of diseases. Almost every organ has some interesting results right now. But in that moment we can do that, and surely we can grow up tissues in vitro outside the body and use that tissues to replace organ that you that is so deteriorated
so you
need to just replace that.
So you could grow a
heart,
kidney or heart in a lab that is with my cells. It's my part of my body, and then have an operation and put it inside.
Yep, that will be. In fact, actually right now, a lot of these things can be doing in the lab. The problem is that it's not so easy to obtain a good engraftment right now.
Right.
So that the organ can be rejected.
It rejects it, yeah.
We are working on that. But it's very promising, all the different...
Well, what's the next step after that? Instead of growing it in the lab, actually remodeling.
In fact, right? There are other stem cells fields, very interesting. I'm very involved with that too, is to induce the stem cells of the body to work the way you want to work. That's a little tricky, but you can do that doing the proper stimulation of the cells. Not only with factors, stimulating factors, hormones, or signals, chemical signals that keep the cell, the stimulate to become the thing you want the cell to become, but modifying the environment of the cell. With exercise, with different modifying the environment of the cell, you can take the cell to do the things that you want the cells to do. So, in theory, if this field can be very good developed, that we hope we can develop, we can a very deteriorated organ, we can stimulate the cells to grow slowly reconstruct all the tissue. The problem there is that you need to take out the toxicity, the toxic elements that are inside the body, the bad parts, or even bad parts of the tissue. Do you need to bleed up to the
Are we working on little robots that'll just go in there and clip away and do
in fact there's a lot nanotechnology is very interesting, and one of the most promising fields in medical medicine, I think, is the interaction of the stem cells with nanotechnology, and that will be the way to do the things we're talking about. So we have a nanotechnology that works around the cell and stimulate and direct the cells to do the things we want the cell to do, and coordinate with others. Because the most important thing, I want this to be clear because it's the problem right now, is how is the dynamic between the different cell populations in our body. Because if you put only one cell, one kind of cells, okay, you say, okay, start me therapy, I put my cells, but that cell will interact with different kind of cells in your body, with different populations, and do different things. And each body is different. So that's why in stem cell research, when we look about the results of the clinical assays, the clinical trials that are around the world, you can find a lot of the results are not so uniform. The explanation is that the human body is so different.
Everybody's unique.
It's unique, and there's a lot of considerations to take in account, like the nutrition aspects of the body, the toxicity that the person has in that moment, the environment of the person, the magnetic fields that the person are related continuously. I don't know, the stress, the management of stress. There's a lot of things that you have to take in account to explain why the stem cells don't work the same for some people to the other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And because when we use for example a normal pharmacological agent and do the research, you always have some percentile of the patients that don't have the direction you want, but it's not so big. as in comparison with these therapies.
This is so fascinating. It was about 3 or 4 years ago I lost my dad. He got pancreatic cancer, and within 6 months he was gone. And I remember I went with him to the doctor when the doctor told him, and it was just like it was hopeless. There's nothing you can do. He just said, listen, you have 6 months, and so that's it. And you just have to accept it. But with stem cell technology, if somebody now that has pancreatic cancer maybe could find a solution, huh?
Yeah, well, I think in 5 years will be
5 more years.
5 more years.
Okay.
Right now, all this is in clinical trials.
Right.
So, and clinical trials are very, very
subject to a lot of regulators.
Yeah, a lot of regulation about that. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. We need to go a little more, but in fact, there's a lot of very promising results using stem cells in cancer. A lot, especially working
Amazing.
together with pharmacs.
Yeah.
The thing is working together.
Uh-huh.
There are some people that think that traditional medicine is against stem cells or is different fields. No, it's a complementary field. We are doing science and we are doing developments that in the future can be used at the same time with the normal therapies that actually the medical community are working today.
So fascinating.
Yeah, it's a field that we can talk. And I'm sorry because when you ask me something, I'm thinking in more and more things, and I know that I leave some gaps. But it's amazing.
And I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and say, "Oh, I wish I'd asked more." I'm going to call you tomorrow probably with some other questions. But let's talk about you now. I know you have a lovely wife and a lovely young lady that lives with you, your daughter.
Yeah.
And you want them to be in the United States. You want your baby to grow up here.
Yeah. Sadly, Mexico right now is having a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And for someone like me that needs some environment, very specific environment.
You're high profile.
Yeah, for work.
Yeah.
Sadly, in Mexico, the conditions are not the ideal one. It never have the ideal ones, but now it's worse.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to come here to explore options for giving my daughter a better life.
So why Las Vegas? What made you move to Las Vegas?
Because my wife has a lot of family in Texas, but when we decided to come to Vegas is because we married in Vegas.
Oh, you like it? Okay.
Yeah, we married in Vegas, and so we love the city. It's a very
paradise, right?
It's a very, very nice city. You don't have a lot of traffic. Only when you have works.
Only on the weekends.
Only some weekends in some spots.
That's right.
But a person like me that I lived in Mexico City, I don't know, 30 years of my life. The traffic down there is almost like LA. So it's very, very
probably
bad.
Worse than LA.
Yeah, it's very bad. So living in a place, staying in a place that you can move almost to every part without finding real traffic is great. The infrastructure is great. The people here is, I think, I find the society here is more open than other parts of the country.
Yeah, because I think because you have people from all over the world.
All over the world, yeah, and it's a very young community, and with when a young community has a lot of strength and a lot of impulse to do new things, and that's why I'm exploring the options to become part of this society here.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, tell us more about your life. What are you wanting to do in your own personal life in the next few years?
Well,
what do you dream about? What are your goals?
My goal is to develop a company here in the States that work with induction of stem cells for the specific therapies. Not only using stem cells to the therapies, instead of that, stimulate the stem cells of your own body to do the things you want they to do. So I want to develop that company. I want to set up here in the States a protocol, a clinical trial to treat macular degeneration with stem cells, as I do in Mexico, but here in the States, because that our results are very interesting. We have a very high percentile of success. I want to do that, and I want to integrate to the society and develop this new field of medicine here, no? Because I think that I have here more options. For starters, I have more. It's easier to get the materials and the equipment here than in Mexico.
Is it really? Yeah.
And really easy and cheaper, a lot cheaper.
But the regulation has to be much tougher here.
Oh, the regulation is tougher here, but I don't be scared about that, because I know that some therapies are going to be open because all the world is happening. I believe that now is still time for some research, especially in research, to become this advancement a proper therapeutic applications. So I think that we can do a lot of things in that regard. I think this is a good moment to start something here in the States.
I think you're absolutely right, and I want to be a part of that.
Okay,
I'm
sure.
so glad I know you. Well, what is the most asked question that you get when people find out what you do?
Oh, the most question is about embryonic stem cells.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that stem cells are only from babies, newborn babies. Still now.
They think it is sort of encouraging abortion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the most persistent question I get in Mexico and here and everywhere. But I talking with people, I think that there is a little more percentage of persons that right now knows about the different options of stem cells. But still, the vast majority of people think that stem cells are from embryonic origin and implies the death of a newborn or a human being. That's the thing, and it's the thing that we need to clarify, because it's not that.
So, tell us something about this whole fascinating industry that we should know that we don't know. Something we haven't talked about. Something you really want people to know about.
About stem cells? Well, stem cells, right now there's a lot of options to stem cells all over the world, but we need to be very careful about that options, because a lot of options of therapy that they offer in a lot of countries, like Asian countries, even in Mexico or other countries of the Caribbean, are not regulated, nor very solid, therapies that in the best of the case don't do anything, and in the worst of the case can do damage. Yeah. To do a proper therapy with stem cells, you need to have a proper equipment of persons working with that. You need a medical doctor, a specialist in that tissue. You need the people of the lab, specialists in stem cell therapies. You need a source, an authenticated source of stem cells. You want to use newborn stem cells, or a very good protocol to take stem cells from the person you are talking about. When you listen about this is the thing you need to know. When you listen to someone that offers you a stem cell therapy and says, "Oh, don't worry, we have the cells here," and that's very, very, very suspectful, because any therapy needs to be with compatible cells.
Right.
So all feel that you have to be very, very, very careful is about when the use of animal stem cells from fetal origin. There's a lot of people that use cells from ovins or sheep, for example.
Chimpanzee.
Sheep fetus. There are therapies that were developed in Germany in the beginning of the past century, using fetal sheep. But they work in some things, but they are no live stem. They are no live stem cells. And even if they are alive, when they put in your body, your body will destroy that.
Reject
They
it.
are rejected that immediately. They have some effect because they can stimulate your own cells, but it's a very limited effect, and can be very dangerous. So that's the thing I want the people to know, because it's the worst thing for the people that work with stem cells is that a big amount of people that are willing to do frauds and are charlatans that are trying to make money
Right.
without the proper
Exactly.
basis to do
So
that.
just so everybody knows, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to have stem cells put into your body so that they could do something, that takes a doctor to do that.
Of course, it takes a doctor.
This cannot be done by a layman.
Yeah.
You can't have a capsule and do it.
No capsule.
You can't have a liquid drink and do it.
No. The stem cells don't come in topic.
It's not a topical.
Topical. If you drink something, it will destroy it in your
Well, there's a
digestive
number
system.
of there's some products out on the marketplace, and some of them are sold by home-based business companies and so forth. I was looking at one the other day, and it's, they're supposed to be fairly famous for their stem cell product, but it's from fruits.
Yeah, let me tell you that this product can work. But this is not stem cells. They are stem cell activation inductors. They are inductors of stem cells.
It's an inductor to get your stem cells working.
Yes, that's the thing.
Okay.
And it works in that only in that.
But exercise does that too?
Yes,
And eating healthy does
the
that
best
too.
way the best way to stimulate your stem cell is exercise.
Okay.
50% more than the next stimulant. you do exercise in the morning, an hour in the morning, an hour in the middle day, an hour in the night. It's like taking pills and keeping a good dosage of stem cell factor that your own body produces.
Well, we only have a few minutes left, but tell us about some of the miracles that you've seen or that you know about with stem cell research.
Wow, there's a lot of things. For example, I tell you this. I remember Warren Wolford, the guy I tell you in Arizona.
In Arizona, yeah.
He was legally blind. The last time I see him, he was driving. That's amazing, and really,
that's in your field.
In my field,
That's your field because you're working on the eyes.
Yeah, in the eyes.
So he injected stem cells into the eye, or what happened?
Oh, depending in the retrobulbar zone.
Huh?
We inject that in the retrobulbar zone, so we make a deposit in that part. So the stem cells will move. Only 23% of the stem cells reach our target tissue, but that can be enough to do a significant difference in the regeneration.
So what if someone was born blind?
Unfortunately, these techniques don't work with that.
It doesn't work with that.
No, not now. In theory, you need to develop a new organ, but it's not so easy.
So it works better with things that wear out, things that age, right?
Oh,
and also diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, another thing I see people, for example, in cancer treatments, it's amazing. Some in Mexico, in Mexico, central Mexico, there's a hospital. They work with immunomodulation of cancer, and they treat people with cancer in phase 3, phase 4, and they can get back, revert the situation. That's amazing too. I see two people that I see, oh my God, non-operable tumors, for example, in the brain. I have the experience of one of this case. And it was a tumor near the hypophysis, and this tumor was controlled with stem cell therapy.
Yeah,
for example.
Exactly.
So there are amazing things out there. But I have to say this again. Be very careful because there is a lot of charlatans out there.
A lot of charlatans.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to watch out for a lot of people.
Watch out.
Now I notice you have this beautiful ring on your finger that your lovely wife gave you, and you're going to make that available as a product here in the U.S. Sometime soon, right?
Yeah. It's a ring that has some metals inside, and these metals stimulate the generation of a magnetic field that helps you.
The magnetic field.
Yeah, this is another field.
It's a whole other field. And then you have the electrical field that we're
yes.
that we're all part of.
For example, when we talk about stem cells, you need to take an account light, magnetic fields, a lot of things. But we can talk about that later because it's more technical.
Well, I know you have a lot of products that'll be coming soon. Things that are going to be made available to all of us that are listening, and I can't wait to have you back on when some of those products get developed, so that so we'll know how to order them from you, and things that really make a difference in our life, that can really change things, really help us to age gracefully, or maybe not even age at all, reverse aging maybe.
Yeah, that's the field. That's
change our health, right?
And the idea is doing that before you get to the problem.
Well, Mario, thank you so much. It's just such
welcome.
a pleasure, and we'll look forward to seeing you. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.